Children make up stories, but 62 children telling the same impossible story? That's a whole different thing. What happens when dozens of children from the same school come back from recess and describe the same impossible thing? Not a dream, not something they saw on TV, not a blurry light in the night sky, a craft on the ground, and beings standing near it. This is the story of the aerial school UFO encounter. And of all the UFO cases in modern history, this may be one of the hardest to simply brush off. On September 16, 1994, at area school near Zimbabwe, students were outside during their mid-morning break. The adults were reportedly inside the school in a meeting. And while the children were outside, something strange happened. According to the accounts later given by the children, one or more silver objects appeared in the sky. Not just passing overhead, not just flashing across the horizon. They said the objects came down near a field beyond the schoolyard, an area with brush, small trees, and rough ground. And then, according to the children, something landed. The children described a strange silver craft. Some described it as disc-shaped. Some said it seemed to hover or move strangely. But the part that made this case famous was not only the craft, it was what they said came out of it. Several children described small beings dressed in dark or black clothing with large eyes. Some children were terrified. Some ran. Some cried. Some stayed and watched. And that right there is part of what makes this case so unsettling. Because children don't all react the same way. One child panics, another freezes, another tries to understand what they're seeing. And according to their interviews afterward, that's exactly what happened. At first, the adults reportedly did not take it seriously. The children came back talking about what they had seen, and the teachers were skeptical. But when the children went home, they told their parents. Then parents began showing up at the school. And suddenly, this was not just a playground talk anymore. Local UFO researcher Cynthia Hind came to the school and interviewed the children. She asked them to draw what they saw. And the drawings repeatedly showed similar themes. Craft, large eyes, small figures, something strange near the edge of the school property. Then BBC correspondent Tim Leach came to investigate and film interviews. Later, John Mack, a Harvard psychiatrist and Pulitzer Prize-winning author, also interviewed some of the children. Now here's where the case gets even stranger. Some of the children later said the beings communicated with them. Not by speaking out loud, but almost like thoughts being placed into their minds. A warning, a message, a feeling. Several accounts describe an environmental theme. That people were hurting the earth. The technology was becoming dangerous. That humanity needed to change. One child interviewed by Mac described the warning as something about pollution and harm being done to the world. Another said the message felt like people were becoming too techno. Now, depending on how skeptical you are, that detail may make the story more believable or less believable. Because once you get into telepathic messages, some people check out completely. But here's the problem. Many of these witnesses did not just tell the story once. Some continued to stand by what they saw years later. And that's where this case becomes difficult. Now, to be fair, not everyone believes this was extraterrestrial. Skeptics have suggested several possibilities. Mass hysteria, children influencing each other, a prank, a misunderstanding, or the effects of other UFO reports already circulating in Zimbabwe around that time. There had been sightings across South Africa shortly before this, including reports of a bright object in the sky. Some skeptics have connected the wave of sightings to the re-entry of the rocket booster. And that matters, because if the whole area was already talking about strange lights in the sky, then maybe the children's imaginations were primed. Maybe one child saw something, another child added to it, and suddenly the story grew. That is the skeptical explanation, and it deserves to be mentioned. But it does not erase the central mystery, because even today the question remains, what exactly did those children experience? This was not one adult telling a wild story years later. This was a group of children in broad daylight at school describing something that frightened them deeply. They drew pictures. They gave interviews. They described beings. They described a craft. And many of them seemed emotionally affected by it. It doesn't automatically prove aliens, but it does make this case harder to dismiss. Because something happened that day. Maybe psychological, maybe environmental, maybe misunderstood, maybe something else, but something happened. And maybe that's the real reason why the area school encounter still bothers people. Not because it proves everything, but because it refuses to disappear. So the question isn't, did aliens land outside the school in Zimbabwe? The deeper question is this: if 62 children looked toward the edge of that schoolyard and all came back changed, what did they actually see? Declassified, but not fully explained. This is the Declassified Archive.